Good morning and welcome to the Daily Cyber Briefing for Wednesday, the 2nd of October. I'm Stephen Ridgway. Zimbra is under attack. There's a remote code execution vulnerability that needs immediate patching. So Zimbra, if you're using it, you'll be aware of this, but it's SMTP, one of these environments that deals with mail. This particular vulnerability is tracked as CVE 2024-45519, and it's a vulnerability in the Post Journals service, which is a component for email journaling and archiving. Allows an unauthenticated remote attacker to execute arbitrary commands on a vulnerable system. Patches are available, so if you are using Zimbra, definitely strongly recommend that you apply patches ASAP, because attacks are now being seen in the wild. So the core to the issue is input sanitization errors. Basically, emails from a particular email sender using a series of CC addresses can be shown to build a web shell on vulnerable Zimbra servers. So effectively, the full CC list is wrapped as a string, and if base 64 blobs are concatenated, they decode to a command to write a web shell. So the web shell then allows attackers to remotely access the server via specifically formatted HTTP requests, which gives access to basically gives access to the system for the attacker to run, modify files, access sensitive data, execute commands, so on and so forth. The security researcher that has been working on this says that mass exploitation of this vulnerability has begun. Patch yesterday is the recommendation. Well, okay, if you've got a time machine, that would be good. If not, patch as soon as you possibly can. So as part of the ongoing lawsuit, is it, I suppose, between Ireland's privacy watchdog and Meta, it has become apparent that Meta was storing something in the region of 600 million Facebook and Instagram passwords in plain text. So this has come out as part of the DPC, Data Protection Commission, ruling that Meta was in violation of GDPR in relation to breach, or the big breach that everybody knows about from 2019. This particular issue is in breach of the requirements to securely maintain EU citizens' data. Well, if you're storing their passwords in plain text, you're not secure. You're not maintaining it securely, are you? It is, I think, a very timely reminder that no matter how much you want to trust social media accounts and the big players, they don't necessarily get it right. Now, quite why Meta and Facebook were storing passwords in plain text, I don't know. I mean, it's not like that one isn't bleeding obvious. But it appears that they were doing that. So you've just got to bear these things in mind. I know that over the years there's been lots of discussion around, is it better to have cloud-based, service-based solutions, or to host them yourselves and run them at what expense, blah blah blah. Well, you couldn't really. Well, I suppose you could run an equivalent of Facebook. I mean, there are other systems out there that are open source and distributed, but they just don't have that popular appeal, and they haven't got the footprint that something as long-standing as Facebook has. So, I suppose the key takeaway from this is, firstly, bear in mind that even very large players may not be looking after your security or privacy or whatever as well as you would expect them to. And secondly, definitely don't reuse credentials. Use 2FA if possible, because that at least makes it noticeably harder under these sort of circumstances for an attacker to walk off with the information and then take over your account. But yeah, it is, I think, yet another indication that you need to be cautious about the services that you use, and you've got to bear in mind the amount of trust that you're putting into those services. And it isn't just a Facebook and Meta issue. The same principle applies whenever you're using social media or cloud services or whatever it is. You are at the mercy of them doing a decent job in the background. If it really matters to you and it really has to be on a computer, I'm afraid I stick by what I've said for many years. You're better off running it yourself in a data center that you know about. And then finally from me today, just a heads up that Google Workspace is announcing changes to its password policies, and specifically it is phasing out the support for what they call less secure apps. It's a sign-in method for third-party apps that require users to share their Google username and password with the app itself. It's considered to be particularly old hat, and has been replaced with sign-in with Google, which is an OAuth authentication solution. The transition away from LSAs, less secure apps, has in fact begun. So in June this year, LSA settings were removed from the admin console, and 2 days ago, on September the 30th, access to LSAs was completely turned off for all Google Workspace accounts. So any services that you are using which were dependent on LSA are very likely to be broken right now. The key to this is then to migrate to an OAuth-based solution. Particularly likely to be a problem around mobile device management, because mobile device management systems have potentially also used less secure apps authentication in the past, and those will need to be redone. So just be aware of that. If your users are saying things are not working properly, it is entirely possible that it is associated with, certainly through third-party apps accessing Google services. You will need to do some work. Hopefully you are aware of this and have done the migration already, but otherwise it's generally a good thing, isn't it? Because actually giving a third-party app your Google credentials rather than using Google as an authentication provider to access these things, or giving away your credentials, is always a bad idea. Well, that's all from me for today.